Okay, good afternoon and good morning to some of you. And we are on August 6th of 2019. And again, a little ditty. I changed the background on my virtual reality screen. This is a little bit of my home. This is where I'm from. It's not where I live right now. I live outside of Toronto, which is like any bedroom community I could show you. This is where I'm from, where my daughter lives, where my grandchildren live, where my ex-wife lives, where my family members, mostly aunts and uncles and cousins, live. It's Cape Breton Island in Nova Scotia, Canada. And this is called Seal Island Bridge. And on the this side of the bridge is where my daughter would be living, I'm sure, if I could see this correctly. Maybe I'm looking at it in reverse or mirrored. And when you come off Kelly's Mountain in Cape Breton and go down over that bridge, just up over a hill a couple of miles, is where my daughter lives, which I won't give the town because I'm sure she prefers to not have that information out there. And she lives with her husband and my four grandchildren and her children, and they are excited to live there. They're excited to live there because look at the lifestyle that they live. They can drive for 5 minutes and be here, or 10 minutes, let's say, and be here and see this. When I was a young man, I had a motorcycle. I'd go up there and look over the Seal Island Bridge and look on this on Englishtown Ferry, they called it. It was an amazing place to be brought up. In small community, it was just the most amazing place to be brought up. Today, our society is different, and that saddens me. I don't know what my grandchildren will face or my daughter will face and her husband and his family. Only good things, I'm sure. They're living a beautiful life in the summer. They have a property through his grandfather, actually had this land that he purchased when he was working with the railroad. And they have almost like a little commune there. They have a bunch of family members that gather on their own lane. It's quite funny. And they've got basically use of this fairly private beach that people do come to use it from time to time that share access to it, but it's quite amazing to see. And compared to trying to put up a little pup tent here in Toronto or some of the beaches here, you can't even get a blanket on them. It's an amazing way for them to live, and I'm so excited, and I'm very pleased that they live like that. I hope they never ever leave and have to go away unless they choose to. It's just a thing that we grew up teaching our children, unfortunately, that they would have to go away to find work because we come from a coal mining town. My father was a miner. His father was a miner. We went through this before, and it's a lifestyle that's changed. The evolution of time has changed, and automation is changing everything. And a lot of people don't see that. And why we're talking here today is because of this change. Once upon a time, you could only speak to people through letters. Then, there was the telephone. You didn't dare to talk for too long because of the long distance charges. Now, this can be beamed across. You got your own TV channels, for God's sakes. It's really amazing what's going on here. Now, I've been doing a little bit of discussions about business and life in general, but mostly on the business end because the whole purpose of business is to make money, let's face it. And, those of you that are involved in the free enterprise system or part of the public sector or versus the private sector, you'll always hear discussions that um, it's really the private sector creates new wealth. I won't get into the reasons why that's important, but it's very important what the GDP and all these things are. But I wanted to just evolve something here, which is what a friend of mine, who the best words I'd ever heard spoken regarding money, and he's actually in business with me in this business, and Chuck sponsored him personally. Chuck is my enroller in the business that I'm participating in, and he also enrolled this gentleman who had made a couple of $100 million on his own prior to doing this. The only reason he looked at this business because he was fat and he wanted to lose some weight. And that's the same thing Chuck did. And this is a man who has a 17,000 square foot home in Las Vegas. He doesn't fly commercial. He flies only with private jet. I won't get into. He has another big, 7,000 square foot home in another part of the U.S. And I won't get into where that is either, because for his privacy sakes. But I think the thing he talked to me was not me personally. He just made this little ditty that I've never forgotten, and I'd like to reiterate it to you because I've always shared this opinion that money is just a promise. It's somebody has put forward effort in something and says, I promise to pay you this much worth of value. And then people have created different ways to value it. It's just insane. And let's just go through his little ditty because he says money has no value unless it's in velocity. And then without it being in velocity, if it's dormant or stagnant, it doesn't do anything. And the greatest analogy I have ever heard is the one I'm going to give you now, and it's his. And okay, Marshall, this is yours, and I don't know where you got it, but it's good, and I'm going to share it. Anyway, a guy's driving down the street, and if anybody's ever been on one of these highways in the U.S., and I have on many occasions, and you go for miles and miles, and there's nothing, and all of a sudden you come across a motel and a bar on the other side, and a little restaurant deli, and this seems to be quite commonplace down there. And let's say you were driving for hours and hours and hours and hours, you're really, really tired, and that's how this story goes. The gentleman was doing that with his significant other, and he drove, and he really wanted to go to sleep. He's still got a few more hours to go to his destination, and he comes across one of these entities, which has the motel on one side of the highway and the bar and the grill on the other side of the road. And so he pulls into the motel side, and it looks kind of, you know, motel-ish, old, a little dilapidated, not the cleanest looking. And he's, oh God, I don't know if I want to sleep here or not. But anyway, he says, you know what, I'm so tired. I don't want to go off the road. Let's go in here and at least see. So he goes inside, and the motel keeper or the person on the desk said, can I help you? He said, well, I'm interested in staying in your one of your rooms. How much? And the guy said, $100. I said, $100? They said, well, look around. There's none around here. $100. He said, it looks kind of nasty from the outside. I don't know if I want to spend $100. Well, then, continue on then. So the guy relents. He said, I'll tell you what. Let me in to look at the room, and I'll give you the $100. And if I'm not happy with it, and I come back out and don't want to stay, you'll give me my $100 back. Fair enough. So the person on the desk gives him the key. He gives him the $100, and he proceeds down to the end of the motel where the room is to take a look. And as soon as he left the door, the guy on the desk runs across the road to the bar, and he sees the bartender. He said, bartender, here's that $100 on my tab that I owed. So we're clean, right? We're fair? Yeah, we are. No problem. And so he just sits at the bar, and he's looking out to make sure the guy didn't come back yet. So he's just waiting there, having a cup of coffee. And in the meantime, the bartender looks down the end of the bar, and there's a man and a woman down there. He says, Dave, come here. You remember that brake job you did for me? I owe you $100. Here's your $100. He said, so we're fair? We're clear? Yeah, absolutely. So Dave goes back to his lady, and he's sitting down having his drink. He says, darling, here's the $100 I owe you. We're not going to discuss what I owed it to you for. And he said, we're even? Absolutely, we're even. Okay, so all of a sudden the lady sees the guy was starting to go out, the hotel keeper, the hotel desk man was leaving. So she was running out behind him, catches him outside. She said, okay, sir, here's the $100 for that hotel room that I rented from you and I still owed you. So we're fair and clear? Yep, absolutely. So the guy goes back to the hotel. In the meantime, gentleman that was looking to rent the room comes back and says, nah, it doesn't look very nice. I'm going to continue on. So guy gives him back his $100. Now, did everybody there get paid off? That's really a dilemma, isn't it? See, that's velocity. That's how money moves. And without it moving in your society, it doesn't work well. And the majority of people want to accumulate it for whatever reason, and they think that when they get that 300,000 over asking price, that didn't come from air. It had to come from somewhere. Someone sooner or later has to put forth the effort to make that 300,000 up or whatever. I know this is off topic, but I want you to understand the velocity of money. It's a promise. It's just someone promising to pay you back effort somewhere, somehow, some way. And, where I come from down here, it's a little different. Smaller communities tend to be more cooperative. They help each other a little better. And the reason I wanted to throw this little ditty in, because money isn't everything. It's just a tool. You can build houses with it like a hammer, or you can smash someone's head in like with a hammer. So money is a tool. It's just a tool to differentiate when you need goods or services or products. That's it. And instead of having bags of gold or, you know, bags of sugar at one time, bags of spice at one time, there's always been commodities that were exchanged, the gold standard per se. And it's only a tool that was invented many years ago. Not that long ago, but certainly many years ago. And again, it is what it is. Unless it's being used, it's of no value. And the reason I bring that to your attention is it takes less of the money to live in an area like this than it does a metropolitan area like where I live here in Ontario. And yet this is probably a lot more beautiful area, much more peaceful, much more for the soul and the spirit to live here, and in the health of yourself. And less stress. Imagine just getting up and looking at that every day, looking out to the ocean, because this goes from the ocean to the Baddeck Lakes, which is the Bredor Lakes. And it's probably the largest inland sea, saltwater lake, I believe, in Canada, probably in the world. People come from all over the world to sail their yachts there. And why is that important? Not just a place. It's a place that I'm from, my family's from, and it's a place that people live and people prosper. And they're not paying $500,000 for this site here, you know, or $1 million for a property at this time, because there's not that much demand. Everything's about supply and demand. And the reason I bring that to your attention is, with my experience in this type of work, what I've noticed, and especially noticed in this particular business, the people who are prospering and doing the biggest businesses are the ladies. Yes, Chuck is doing well, and Marshall's doing well, and John is doing well because they were at the beginning and they started the gig. But the people who are really making this happen in our organization and through the other organizations are the gals. And a lot of them are like from smaller communities. They might live in bigger cities now, but they have communities in those cities which they work towards because they share things. They find something good and they share it. And that's the big thing that I want to get across to you. Developing a business isn't about trying to convince people to do something they don't like or don't want to do. It's about finding something that's really good and sharing it with the people you really care about. And that's what these people are doing. And I'm doing. And that's why I'm here doing this. Like, if I thought for a minute that this would harm you or you could be going broke, you know, using this product or this type of product, I would say, I'm not going to do that. But because I've seen the benefits, my best friend has lost 40 pounds. The guy I work with lost 35, 40 pounds. His mother's 83. She's using it. It gives her great energy and balances her hormones, she says. I don't know what that means, but it just means that he's pleased with it, and his mother drinks 2 cups a day. And on I can go. So this is just going to be quick and to the point, but I really want to show you part of where I'm from, where I want to be, and where I'm going to be in due time. Right now I have some illnesses my wife has, and I'm trying to help her with those. But so I have to stay in this city at this present time. But for those of you who like a different lifestyle, you could live like this over here, what I'm showing you. And it's not that expensive. And you could do it from living from your home, just doing what I'm doing right here, sharing something that's really good. You know, and if anything, it won't cost you money, it actually makes you money. Everybody keeps asking me, how much does this cost me? If it costs you, then you're doing something wrong. You know, you're not sharing it with people. You're holding it. You're like the parable of the 10 talents. You buried your gold and you hid it instead of getting it out there and using it. And there's a reason for that, because it's velocity. It's always about velocity. And anyway, I hope this helps you. And of course, I will be getting more and more involved in the online part of this, as I told you, and I will indeed be getting more and more involved in the business end of it and explaining to people the business side of what I do and how to do it, whether it's in your personal business that you have now. You already have a home-based business. And I'm sure that there's some tips I can help you with developing that even further if you want to. And if not, my friends can, because they're highly successful. Like they've got systems in place that are amazing. And to all of you who I'm talking to for this little ditty, I really appreciate you continuing to look at my Facebook. For those of you who have shared my little things, I know who you are. I've seen your comments. I've appreciated. As you see, I'm trying to make this so that my head's not half cut off, and some of the other very good critical elements of the theatrics of this. But I hope the substance makes sense to you. Velocity is what money is made for. It's made to go around so everybody benefits from it. And if you don't have a system in place that's creating velocity, then the people around you aren't benefiting from your efforts. That's too bad. There are ways to do that, and I'd be happy to show you how it's done. And for those of you that want to know more about me and my business, then you know how to get a hold of me, personal message me, or get a hold of me through friends or family that you know who I know. And if you're a person who's just getting this publicly, who's never met me personally, name is Steve Podursky, and I'm a 41-year successful entrepreneur and salesperson. That's really what I call myself, just a sales guy. Like I convey information to people. And one of the great things I've always learned in life, and one of the best things that ever told me, is serve the masses and you'll live with the classes. I don't want to sell Cadillacs and Rolls Royces and $8 million homes in Toronto. I'd rather own the rights to selling the bobby pin or a cup of coffee that makes people lose weight. Think about that for a second. The masses, serve the masses, live with the classes. Okay, think about that. Give it some serious thought. And if you ever get a chance, get a hold of me. I'm happy to take your information and get back to you with anything you require to know from me. All the best. Bye.